Hi, my name is Jacqui Kinyanjui, and I will be telling you my story today. So welcome to The Connect.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Jacqui, for creating the time. And it's such an honor because we celebrate you in the community, in the Kenya community. We see you. Yeah, people see you.
Thank you.
For all the achievements. We're going to talk about that and much more today. We just want to first and foremost just to say thank you for honoring our invite and always coming back to The Connect.
Oh, Connect is family, Pete. Anytime, but I feel equally honored. Thank you for thinking of me as you think about the different stories you can tell. And I believe that as we share today, hopefully there's one person that will be inspired as we walk along.
Amazing. So we're gonna throw it back.
Yes.
All the way as far as you want it.
Oh,
so
wow.
Tell us where this now journey began.
Yes.
To now where we're seeing Jacqui. But take us as far back as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yes, throwback. People, are you ready? Are you ready for my life's journey? So I was born many years ago, I wouldn't tell when, in Nairobi. And I was born the second of 4 siblings. And, growing up, I think the beauty with growing up where I did is the diversity. So I went to a very multicultural school. And I think that was the beginning of a journey into opening up my mind to different ways, different ideas, different people. Went through my primary school years. I don't know what they sit now, but it was KCP in my time, KCP. Then after I did my KCP, I went on to day school, Loreto Convent, Valley Road. And I went to Valley Road. And then in my second year of high school, transferred to Loreto Limuru. Now, talk about baptism by fire. Now, Loreto Convent Valley Road at day school, it was good. We were well treated. It was a really lovely school. And Loreto Limuru was a national school. So very different pace, different expectations, high expectations I'm talking about. You're talking about the top of the girls in Kenya. And so that was a completely different experience altogether. And I think that started the journey in really exerting myself, pushing myself, and really challenging what I'm capable of. So that was high school. So then, of course, I completed my high school at Loreto Limuru. And after that was at the age of 18. Waited for my results as you do. My results came out. And I was going to go and study law at the parallel program at Nairobi Uni. But we're talking the 90s. I won't tell you when because people are not like, how old is she? It's not going to come out. Don't even wait for the age. It's not coming. But, in that finishing school, parallel program was the thing then. It was really a good way of doing uni without the riots and all those other interruptions that the mainstream campus had. But it was at a time when there were carjackings in Nairobi. It was like really terrible. So there was no chance where I grew up and where Parkland's campus was, I could commute at night with the carjackings. So then divinely, and actually part of my story, can I just say quickly now that I think of it, I think a lot of what I'm about to share with you is a journey of faith. Like the journey has unfolded step by step. So as things would have it, now it's not possible to go to Nairobi University parallel program. We meet a lady whose son was in Western Australia, in Perth. And she says, don't send your children to America. America, no, they'll go there and get lost. Australia is the place to be. And sure enough, then we started the process for coming to Australia. So I arrived in Australia fresh as anything, young as anything, innocent as anything at the age of 19. And I came to study, actually came to do my high school, another year of school yet again. Reason, they would not accept my Kenyan qualification from KCSE back then for a law degree. Now, and I think, again, another point, I'll keep interjecting my own story just to kind of give a moral to every lesson. At that point, what they offered me is a barter, some sort of trade-off. You give up the law. You can do commerce, you can do arts, you can do something else. Just don't do law. And we are happy to take you with your KCSE grade. If you insist you want to do law, then you need to redo your high school year again. And it was a real gamble. Okay, so it's a risk taking. I don't know how it will all pan out. But you know what? I took the challenge, went back and did another year of the equivalent of year 12. And at the end of it, then I got the grades to get into law school. So then started my journey. I had offers from different universities. Ultimately, I decided on Monash. And at Monash, day one, I want you to just think of a 19-year-old or about 20 at this point in time, because I've been here 1 year, done my high school equivalent. Now I'm going into my second year of life in Melbourne, and I meet the enrollment people, whatever they're called, those ones who enroll you, yeah? And they're saying, oh, would you be interested in a double degree? Had never heard of it. It's not a concept that was there in Kenya. I don't know if it exists now, but certainly wasn't there when I was in Kenya. So it was a really foreign concept. We knew about double majors. You can major in two things, but certainly not double degrees. So I asked them what that was, and they said, oh, you do 2 degrees. I said, oh, do you pay double? Hey, the Kenyan in me, we've got to do our maths. You kind of have to be careful. If the deal is too good, you better think twice. So like, oh, is that a double? They're like, no, you same fees, just slightly longer, and you do 2 degrees. So in the end, what I ended up studying is a Bachelor of Laws and Bachelor of Business in Banking and Finance at Monash. So that's a 5-year journey. Let's pause there, Pete.
Wow.
Let's pause there. That's how the journey fast tracked.
So I have so many questions with that, just the beginning of that journey, because as a 18, 17, 18, 19-year-old, how was that going in your mind? Because now you have to make a decision where to gamble and give up. But before now, you tell us how you came to actually, barter trade or give and say, this is what I need. Where did that dream of, studying law, because this is something that you're showing you really held, and you said, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to still study law. Where did that dream come from? Where did you now start realizing, or where did you start beginning to have that dream of becoming a lawyer?
Yeah. Look, Pete, honestly, truth be told, if I talked about what truly was in my heart, like what I really desired as Jacqui, I desired to be a school teacher. That's what I desired to be. But you try and say that to a parent in Kenya, I want to be a school teacher. It's like you lack ambition, And it's such a shame, because I think teaching is such a noble, wonderful career. But unfortunately, it had been tainted and has been tainted in Kenya, so much so that unfortunately, it's not the dream of every child. Now, what I really aspired to, do you know what the dream was? Was not even standing in front of the classroom teaching. It was holding chalk and writing on the blackboard. That was my dream. And then getting that eraser and rubbing off the chalk. That was like the highlight of my life, But I wasn't about to say that to my parents. Plan B, actually wanted to study to be a chef.
Oh, wow.
That was something else I'd really thought. I thought, you know what? I think I'd do well in the kitchen. Yeah. But again, how do you start telling your parents who have really high expectations, high ambitions for you, have invested heavily in your education, I want to go into a kitchen for my life? It wasn't going to happen. So we did what every child, and I think this is something that many cultures grapple with, whether you talk about a Kenyan, an African for that, or you talk about an Asian, really wanting to ensure that your parents are happy with the choices you're making. And so there came law. I wasn't wired for the sciences, or else I think you're kind of restricted to certain professions. You'll do medicine, you'll do law, you'll do architecture, you'll do aviation, those sorts of courses. So anyway, so law was it. And so now that the idea was set, law it was going to be. Yeah.
So before, just sorry to interject, but I wonder, it's a very critical question, because the follow-up question, and then you're going to continue. Yeah. When law was set, was it a parent's idea, or was it your idea to do law?
Yeah, I think it was my idea. It was my idea. And this is a really interesting thing too about where the idea came from. The first I thought about law, I just thought the arts. I just thought, I imagined, maybe I'd say I'd imagined in my mind, it can't be rocket science. I think it was what my thinking was. It's not a degree in mathematics or physics. I think I should be able to nail it. But then I also want to talk to people who have been discouraged along the journey. I remember one woman at the church, we went to the family church, when I said to her, I want to go and study law. she said to me, you cannot study law. Not you. Your sister has the personality for it, but you don't have the personality for it. And I think you've got to be really careful the messages that you've been told through your life journey, whether it came from a teacher, whether it came from that lady at church, whether it came from a parent, a sibling, whatever. I think there comes a point where you kind of have to have that inner will in yourself, that you believe in yourself enough that it doesn't matter what other people perceive of you. You know that there's something in you that can do it. And I think her words, rather than discourage me, did the opposite. I thought, what is it she sees in me or doesn't see in me? And I just wanted to prove that wrong. And so that in some way was a real impetus. For some people, that might be the discouragement. For me, that was the real drive. Like, I know I've got it in me. Yeah. I'll do this thing and I'll pursue it. And so that's where that came from. So I feel a lot of it. And I'll just say this bit, and I say it with all genuineness. I feel my journey has divinely unfolded. Like, if I took one step and then God unfolds the next one, and I step into that and the next one, and it kind of seems to open as I go. And maybe that's also what I'd say to someone who's thinking about, oh my gosh, I'm not clear in my mind where I'm going. That's fine. The idea is you take that first step. When you take the first step, that first step takes you to a second step, then a third step. I think where we go wrong is we stall on the idea that I don't know where I'm going. Yeah, so you just don't do anything about it, and that's a mistake.
Amazing. Yeah. So there's a question I want us to answer before we go to the studies.
Yeah.
How important is it to have the right career choice at the beginning, or doing the research? Like now you're saying your parents, yourself, you had that feeling. But what other indicators do you have before we answer how important? What other indicators should someone see that this is why I'm actually pulled toward this? What other indicators did you have sort of that guided you towards going for law?
Yeah.
Is there other indicators that someone should have, and then they say, okay, I'm going for law, I'm going for this. Before now, we answer how important is it to have the right career choice at the start.
Okay. I think a lot of how what we should be looking for is how we are wired. There's things about your personality. There's things about your temperament. There's certain things that just make your blood boil or make your blood really just, pump. Those are your passions. That in itself is divinely put in you to direct you. So that if you find that you're very passionate about social justice issues, you're hearing about child trafficking, and it just makes you feel like you're about to just lose your mind. Yeah, right there. You know that there's something about that you should actually stop and pause and really assess why that is. Or you may find that for yourself that, you just walk into a creative space and everything about you comes alive. Then you should know that's your wiring. So that's already your first step, and that's your first cue. Now, once you have that first cue, then you now start to sit down and to look, and thank goodness for the internet. I mean, the treasure that is in the internet. You just need to go and sit, whether you go on a work search engine like Seek, and you put in just some words in there, or you go online and do a search. And then the other thing, Pete, even just, I know we'll talk about this as we go along, is what we lack. And I feel as a people, and I know your audience goes beyond Kenyans, but I just really want to talk particularly to Kenyans, Africans, maybe migrants, if I extend it that far. I think we are very caged, and we often will not look outside of ourselves. Now, you'd be amazed if you wanted to do something. Say today, I want to work for the top consultancy firms. You'd be amazed. I could pick up the phone right now and I can call and say, look, I really, really want to work in here, and this is what I want to do. Is it possible for me to meet with someone for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes? And now we have Zoom platforms. We've got phone calls. You've got all these things that we can do. Can I speak to someone for 10 minutes? You'd be amazed how willing people are to talk about where they're at, how they got there, what their journey is like, what to do, what not to do. So that, I feel, is so think about your wiring, how you're wired, what makes you tick, your own personality. Those things are not coincidental. You've been wired that way for a very, very distinctive reason.
Amazing. I like that. I just wanted to answer that question before now, we continue with this journey. So now you decide to do law, and now you're fully immersed and you start off. How was that journey? How was class now? 19-year-old. Also talk to other young girls, because there's a video that was going around saying young girls or young people, when they come to study abroad, they sort of get confused or get lost. But how was it for you as a young girl, and how was the study phase?
Yeah. oh my gosh, like, oh my gosh. But honestly, it really was not easy. It's not easy. It is not easy. Don't let anyone lie to you that it's easy. And I hear people saying, oh, in your time, it was easy. You know, that time it was easy. Can I tell you, there's no that time it was easy. Study, and it's quite challenging. I particularly found it challenging because it was the law school didn't actually have people like me. Like I walked into the classrooms and I stood out. I went into I stood out. I walked along the corridor, I stood out. But, you know, interestingly, there was one other African Kenyan girl, and we were in high school together, interestingly, but we just found ourselves on campus together. Didn't study much together because she was doing arts law and I was doing banking and finance and law. But I felt it was a very, very lonely journey. Lonely because of, one, the choice of course. And so the people who are actually in law school or were certainly at that point in time. But over and above that is the demands of it. So remember, I had chosen to do the double degree. It was the demands of it. We were based both at Clayton and Caulfield campuses. So I'd study the law degree at Clayton. I'd get on the shuttle bus. I'd then go to Caulfield, do the banking and finance, and it was just this constant juggle. And don't forget, in there, you also weave in work. I was very fortunate, though, I have to say, that my fees was paid for. My parents paid for my fees, and I think that is a real saving grace. But I really still want to talk to those who have to pay their fees, yeah? It's not insurmountable. It's not insurmountable. Many, many, many countless others have done it. I think those who've been paid for are the smaller minority. Those who've had to pay for themselves are the bigger majority. So that should encourage you. If others have done it, you too can do it. So at the time I worked in retail, I worked at Maya in the ladies' shoe department at Chadstone. So I really was trying to really get my head around all this juggling, you know, shuttle bus and, you know, going to work and all of these things. And it was a challenge. It was sacrificial. But thank goodness for the leap that I had taken from Loreto Convent Valley Road to Loreto Convent Limuru, because that baptism by fire helped me. Drinking coffee to stay up and keep up with all these genius young girls. You know, dipping my feet in cold water to stay up, like all that hash life. It really helped me and it came in really handy when I had to do my uni. But I just really would love to say to everyone and anyone watching, there are no shortcuts in life. Like, honestly, I think, you know, they make fun about us being or a generation or, you know, microwave generation. We want things quick, instant. It does not work like that. Like I think as far as instant goes, there's instant noodles and instant coffee. That's it. After that, no instant. You know, I think you really just have to be prepared to make the sacrifices. And that for me looked like those days that I would be up at 3 a.m. and have continued to date. And we'll keep talking about my journey. But, you know, to date, there's times I just need to make those sacrifices and you just make the sacrifice. The thing you keep in mind is it's a season. It's not forever. And you make that sacrifice. So, Pete, it wasn't easy, but it wasn't insurmountable. And when I stand here and I look back, I'm glad I put in those years and the hard work and the sacrifices.
Amazing. And maybe just a few mentions or a few tips, maybe just for students, just to keep them, you know, above board, maybe to manage or to prioritize, or, you know, when they're going through study, work, life balance. What maybe worked for you, or what have you seen working for others that might work for someone? What tips do you have? Maybe 1 or 2 tips just after we finish and then we'll move on.
Okay, I really just feel priorities have to be right. And again, an observation, I mean, I haven't talked about what I do yet for work, but I teach. And in teaching, I've come across way too many students who've got their priorities really the wrong way around. And that looks like work has become the priority, studies not. It cannot be. Studies got to be the priority, then work comes second. And so what that looks like is when you're in session, your study comes first. Holidays, and take advantage of the summer breaks because those are very long. Work night and day, work 24/7, you know, do, you know, as much work as you can, and let that amount of money that you make then be what you put towards your living expense, the bulk of it. And then just be disciplined about your work. I think now there's restrictions back. They were really strict in my time. It was 20 hours, and 20 hours it was. And with those 20 hours, we were able to, you know, just somehow you're able to feed yourself and, you know, you're able to find some share accommodation education and things like that. I think the pursuit of things, yeah, you just want the nicest car, you want the nicest clothes, you want the nicest shoes, you want to, all of those, you want to party, you want to go out, you want to go on holidays to Bali. I mean, like, really, priorities. There's a season, and it actually is a biblical phrase. There's a season for everything under the sun. And in this season of study, you just tell yourself it's short term. And, you just don't know what doors are open to you when you excel as a student. When you excel as a student and you now send in your thing and you can sell yourself, I mean, all those sacrifices become well worth it. So I'd say get your priorities right is what I'd say to you. Be willing to make those sacrifices. So that looks like you've got to plan. You've got to have a schedule. On this day I'm in class. On these days, I'm not in class. On the days I'm in class, I'll be there. I may stay back a bit later in the library and do this, that, the other, work an assessment, do things like that. On the weekend or, maybe 2-3 days a week, I'll be able to go and do some extra work and myself some money. But without a plan, that phrasing of, failing to plan is planning to, it 100% is true for a student. Like, get a wall planner and just have a plan. Don't just go blindly and think you'll just kind of, waft your way through it, or take shortcuts is another one. Sorry, Pete, to digress.
Yeah, that's okay.
But taking shortcuts.
Also, now talk about discipline as well.
Yeah.
While you're at it, and then we continue.
Absolutely. Yeah. Discipline. Oh my gosh, discipline. And this lack of discipline is what is causing people to desire to take shortcuts. And those shortcuts look like sending your assessments to be written for you by people. So you have no idea. You basically go through your whole degree or diploma or certificate, whatever it is you're studying, with no clue whatsoever. You graduate with a piece of paper and you have not actually earned that paper. I think, Pete, we need to go back to the crux of why it is we study. You study to acquire the knowledge and the skills. If at the end of it, you're sending your work to be done by someone, if at the end of it, you're using ChatGPT to generate your answers, I think you've missed the whole point. And your brain, your mind, you as a person, you don't grow any more than you were before. I think we need to start challenging some of those ideas of taking shortcuts and realize that anything that is worth it in life takes discipline, it takes sacrifice, it takes pushing yourself, exerting yourself. And when you look back, you'll be glad you did all of those things.
So let's talk about graduation. So you graduated, you tell us what you graduated with. And then after that, how did you now go transitioning from now student to getting a job? And then now you can tell us about your job journey and what is it that you do.
Yeah. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Laws and a Bachelor of Business in Banking and Finance. Now, again, I've said a lot of my journey, the unfolding of it has been, you take that step opens up another step. Now, as things would have it, I said I was working at Chadstone, at Maya, a ladies' shoe department. And while working there, they introduced a graduate program. And this is what I'm talking about. The journey unfolds. You just take one step. So in this position in retail, they start a graduate program and they go, if you're in uni or you're completing uni, we would like to employ you in our head office for a 1 year, 12-month stint. You'll do different rotations in different areas. I mean, I jumped at the opportunity and it could not have been any better orchestrated. Perfect timing. I was finishing my degrees and then they introduced this program. So I got into this graduate program and it was 12 months in their head office, and they started to really pair you with different departments. So, I was able to work in the legal. I was able to work in their supply chain. I was able to work in the operation. So the whole idea is you get to see Maya as a business through all the different lens. Yeah. So before things get to the front shelf, there's a lot of other things that are happening on the back end. So get to see things through that back end and be involved in that process. So that was my first proper job, as in office job. Yeah. Then while I was doing that, at the end of the 12-month stint, they then offered me employment. And so at this point, I'd been with Maya 5 years. Then now they offered me employment, and I ended up working with them for another 4 and a bit years, so close to 10 years by the time I resigned. Now, then when I resigned, and now let's talk about the resignation. So I resigned. At the time I was in this space, you go through spaces and seasons. I was like in this space where I was thinking to myself, I really want to do something that is giving. like not for profit. The motivation is not profit. The motivation is something other than profit. And so I was now looking at the non-governmental space or government, even government. I was like, oh, a government job. And so I started to apply, and it was application after application. And I had no method or anything. It was just give me a government job, I'll be good, or a non-governmental organization. Now I ended up getting a government position, a government job. And then I worked there. It was actually with Public Transport Victoria. And it was doing the tenders. The tenders, so you, for example, night rider bus as an example, and I'll just use that one as an example, the tendering process, how do we shortlist? So different people come and say, oh yeah, we want to tender or provide our services to Public Transport Victoria. So that whole process of checking through their paperwork and, this is the best candidates, this one will be awarded. So working in that team. So that was what I did. And I did that for close to 4 years. Then at the end of that period, at the end of that 4 years, I went on maternity leave. And as many parents can attest, I was going to say moms, but we are not going to be sexist. Many parents can attest. Having kids just does something to you. You start to really think about, what do I really want? What do I really like? Forget what's opening up for me, but what do I really want? And I got into that phase and I started to really think about, what do I really want to do for myself? What do I really want? Thought about business ideas. Should I start a business? Should I do, and you go through all of those. And while on maternity leave, I got an offer from my current employer now to go and teach with them. I'd never taught. I had no idea what that would look like. But remember when I said at the start, what I really desired was to be a teacher and to write with chalk on a blackboard. So here the opportunity was knocking. And it was a very daunting thought. Remember, you migrant, you're coming, you're going to go to a university. How do you stand in a lecture theater? Do you, all of those things. And it was just a really, really, really big leap of faith to take on this job. And I did just that. Yeah. So I took the job in the end. It was a real leap of faith, a big, big leap of faith. Because it was walking into an unknown space. And I think that's really what I'd say to many people who are thinking about where they're going in life. Very few people have the jobs that they thought about as a child. When I grow up, that statement, I want to be a policewoman, and you become a policewoman. That's a very small minority. For the vast majority, the reality is you don't land where you thought you would land. Sometimes you go sideways. Sometimes you may go backwards. Sometimes you jump and you leap very much forward. So anyway, so that was it. So I've come now from retail and then into their head office. Then now I've gone into public transport, into tendering, and now I'm going into a classroom to teach. And so a huge leap of faith. And I walked in, and if I said to you that I did not think of quitting at the start, I'd be lying. It was like another whole other world. I'd stand in front, and I'm new and I'm just somewhat timid, and I'm really trying to talk to these kids who have their headphones on and with their feet up on the table, and and all of those sorts of things, and you just don't know how to manage, adult learners, or even children learners. I didn't know how to manage, but certainly not adult learners, and just really intimidated in that space. And I remember the initial lectures. You'd have a 3-hour, or I'd have a 3-hour lecture. It would go for 20, 30 minutes. And I'm like, now what? Now what? The PowerPoint is over. What do we do? But you know what? The moral, the lesson, you keep at it. You keep at it. Again, another thing we do wrong. The moment you hit an obstacle, you quit. You're like, no, I don't think I was born for this. No, I think maybe I was wrong. I couldn't teach, or all of those sorts of things that come through our minds. You push. You keep pushing. You keep pushing. And that's exactly what I kept doing. I kept showing up. And I'd keep showing up, and I'd ask my colleagues, can I sit in on your class? And I just watch their classroom delivery and what they're like. And I cannot be them, but I certainly can learn certain things from them. And today, honestly, as I look back, it's been a long time now, by the way. It's now been 8 years. I think this will be my 9th year, 2024. As I look back on the journey, I can just see how much I've grown as an educator. I've seen how much I've grown. I've seen the change that I've brought into the students' lives. I've just seen, even in terms of the classroom delivery and just even being able to manage that mature student and all of that, just how that dynamic has changed. But that hasn't just happened. It's come through, you show up day after day, you ask people, oh, how do you do this? Or how do you navigate this? Or if this happens in the class, if someone's got their feet up and their head forward, what do you do about that? That kind of thing. And as you keep going, it's amazing what happens. And so I really just think part of the journey and part of the resilience comes through these challenges that we face. And so I really feel, particularly, I'd really love to talk to anyone who's looking at me and thinking you're about my age, or you think you're older than me, or you think you could even be my parent. Like, it doesn't really matter how far we're talking. I think we really get one shot at life. And you've got to live your best life. And that looks like you challenge yourself. So long as you have the breath of God in you, there's still an opportunity to try something new. So it always saddens me when I speak to people who gave up somewhere along the way. And I really just hope that my story, or if even not my story, I think just really this interview in itself will encourage you that do not give up on those dreams. Don't give up. It's never late. So long as you're breathing, it's not late.
Yep.
So pursue those things. Do those things. Come into the classroom. If you want to come and observe me, come. I'll support you through that. But yes.
Amazing. And before now we go to the next phase, that is what you're currently doing and what you're pursuing and all that. I want to talk about challenges a little bit more, just on length, because we have two aspects of challenges. You actually being from an African background, and now you're teaching or you're lecturing in this big, university. And now this is another dynamic. How did you now, progress in that career? Did you get mentorship? What did you do? What did you do to get yourself ahead and to be able to deliver in the best way possible? Because this is another career that you've gotten into. And also people who are afraid of going for such big jobs, it's scary because maybe you're from an African background, or maybe you think you don't have everything that it takes to actually, be in those positions. What are you going to tell them today?
Yeah, really great question. I think, I think it's unfortunate, Pete. A lot of, maybe it's our schooling. It may also be the culture we grow up in. I think there's a lot of self-doubt that we cultivate and we wear and we walk around with and we accept, which is, I think, the saddest thing, that we accept it. And so you walk into places, and just by virtue of who you are, by virtue of your skin color, by virtue of your accent, by virtue of the way you wear your hair, all of those things, you already are feeling like you're on the back foot. But can I challenge that and think you have something unique that you're bringing to the table? And I feel that's what it was for me. And so I'm just kind of going to mix the who we are plus, how that can actually be a blessing right there. And I started to recognize it as a blessing when I was at Maya. There's a time they were doing some promotional material and they wanted me to feature on that promotional material. And I started to look at it and think about it, later, maybe not at that point in time, but later, and started to think, there must be something, there must be something that I'm offering or I'm bringing to the table that someone else can't replicate, And I think that's the same mindset that's carried me. And so now in my job, I've had this perception or this mindset, and maybe it is true, that for people of color, we need to work double to get to where someone else is. And I don't think that's a figment of our imagination. I think there's something to that. We need to work a bit, harder. But I think in there's also the blessing that there's certain things that we are able to draw on that others are not able to draw on. Like I talked about the high school experiences. I mean, if you went to a Kenyan boarding school, my goodness, if you lived that life, that kind of life. or, you know, those of you who you've had to hustle in Kenya. Like, I know people who have had to do different things. I know people who've, do that, like some really, really tough days. And you've now stepped into this country. I mean, why not tap into that? Because that right there is something you can actually use to propel you to where you need to go. So for myself in the workplace, I found that I brought something unique to the classroom. I actually have a student, current student, who came to me and he said to me, an African young man, and he just, was really shocked when he walked into the classroom and I was delivering. And he just said to me what that has meant for him and how that's encouraged him and how that's challenged him and how that's propelled him. And I think if it's for just this one student, that I stand there and I represent something he's familiar with. He actually said to me, he went home and told his mom, and he said, oh my gosh, you will not believe who's, I've got a lecturer who is, and I just think, why are we in the minority? There's so many of us. And so we need to start breaking those glass ceilings. If we're not breaking them for ourselves, let's break them because we've got a generation of children who want to walk into a classroom and see somebody who looks like them, who want to walk into a medical practice and see someone who looks like them, who want to walk into a gym and see an instructor who looks like them. I mean, there's so many opportunities. I'm not just talking about professions like mine. I'm talking across the board, so we start challenging these things about who we are. Let's look at the hardships, maybe the challenges, all of those things as stepping stones. And we're in a very good era, believe it or not, where now there is the whole theme of diversity so embraced. I mean, jump on the diversity bandwagon. If it pushes you to where you need to go, take it and ride it. If you're going to be the face of a company, you're going to be promoted, or put somewhere as a poster child on the basis of diversity, tap into those opportunities, take them and run with them and make something of your career, make something of yourself. So I think that's what I'd say, Pete.
Amazing. And let's talk about personal development.
Yeah.
In career progression and the careers you are in. In how does that look in your space? Because now we're talking about now what you're progressing doing and what you're currently doing and what you achieved just the other day. Yeah. Now talk to us about all this personal development that is going on in your life.
Yeah. Look, I think I've really just I'm really blessed in the sense that when you're working at a university, you have no choice but to keep studying. It comes with a job. Yeah, you can't sit back and go, that's it. They actually require you to continue developing your knowledge and your skills. So that means you need to still be in contact with the industry. So if your profession is legal, you've got to keep up with what's happening in that legal space. We know what's happening in the industry. Then you've got to keep up with the knowledge. So that means you're doing continuous professional development, or you're studying even more, and you're just continuing to further yourself, because you're not going to be in a classroom where you're delivering to students, what you learned in uni 5, 10, 20 years ago. I mean, it's somewhat the same, but I think times change and things change. And so it becomes really important that if you're going to remain relevant, if you're going to remain cutting edge, you've got to keep up. You've got to keep up with your study. I mean, now we've got artificial intelligence. We've got all of these things that are happening. And then you're going to talk about a textbook you read in 2000 and what was it? Y2K, 2000, I mean, people look at you so I think it's just imperative. And I'm not just talking about educators like myself. I have the challenge, and also it's a blessing that I've got to do it. I've got to actually every year complete paperwork to show what I've done to develop myself. It comes with the territory. If you're in academia, you've just got to keep studying. However, I'm talking to those who are not in academia. You're a nurse, you're whoever. It really is important you keep up. You can do a day conference. You can do a course. You can do something. You need to remain relevant. There's going to come a time, and there's already a time now where we're starting to replace humans, So you have to be replaceable. You've got to be doing something or provide something that a bot can't do or any other thing cannot do. If they do not have you there, then it cannot be done. And I think that comes through continually improving yourself. So let's not rest on the fact that we acquired 1 degree somewhere along the way. Let's not rest on the fact that we've even got a PhD. And now even, I mean, there's those who've got PhDs. Let's not rest on those things. There's an opportunity. So long as you are doing something, you're working, you know, just keep your mind engaged by really looking at what more you can add to what you already know. You know, expand, keep expanding, keep growing.
Amazing. And we celebrate you because on the other, I think the other month or so, you actually graduated with your master's.
Woo!
Yes, we celebrate you for that. And also you're enrolled for your PhD.
Yes.
So my biggest question for you is, how do you do it? You know, because we know you're a community leader. You send yourself out there just to, you know, for others. You have a family, 2 lovely boys and a husband. And you also have so many things going for you. You have to lecture. You have to, you know, you have to do life as well. How do you do it, Jacqui? How do you do it? Talk to people who are actually not even able to do personal development for even a day. How do you do it, Jacqui? What's the secret? What's the secret?
Oh, Pete, oh my goodness. Is there a secret, really? But honestly, I mean, first, thank you for that. I really see that very much as what we started with. There's got to be discipline in your life. The way we started this interview, we said nothing comes easy. And I think the moment you make peace with that there's going to have to be sacrifices, then that's it. And one of the things I said to myself, because my kids are still young, I said, I'm not going to be an absent mom. I'm not going to be the mom who is always studying, that their childhood memories, all they remember is that I was always cooped away in a room studying, didn't want to be disturbed, didn't want to talk to them. So what that has meant is that when they're asleep, that's when I'm studying, or when, you know, so, and I'm not a late night person, I'm an early morning person. So that looks like starting my day at 3 a.m., sometimes even 2 a.m., you know, so I'll do that. I'll do my 2, 3 a.m. and I'll study till however long, and then get myself ready for work, jump on the Monash, sit on the Monash for however long, and I'm listening to, you know, whether it's a podcast or whatever it is I'm listening to, or praying or whatever it is, get to work, start my day, always the first one into the office, gives me enough time, whether it's marking assessments or whatever it is I'm doing. And then my day starts, and I come and I pick up my kids and I start now to do the other things we need to do. We need to do homework. We need to do bath time. We need to do dinner time. You know, all of those things. But I think, Pete, really what I'd say to anyone is nothing is difficult and nothing is impossible if you put your mind to it and you're prepared to make those sacrifices. And then I think the other real secret that I would maybe share with people is consistency. It's no point if you're disciplined day 1 and 2, and then by day 3, you've given up on it. And this is the whole thing of the New Year's, what are they called? New Year's resolution. You know, by week 3 of January, they're done. Why is that? It's that staying power. You've got to have the staying power, the sticking power, consistency. You know, you remind yourself. And then I think another thing we have as humanity is you wait until you feel like. I don't feel like studying today. Well, if you wait for your feelings, it's never going to happen. So I just say to you, you start, whether you feel like it or you don't feel like it, you sit there and you start to do it, and slowly it grows on you and it grows on you and you keep doing it. So Peter, I think that's what it is. And then you kind of then designate and you decide what your days look like. So on this day, I'll study. On this day, you know, for me, you know, a community, you throw anything community at me, I'll do it, you know, and on this day, then whatever. But the one thing that you cannot afford to sacrifice on, I think, is family. And so what that looks like for me, I've said is I've made the decision early on. My kids won't have to pay for my decisions to want to progress myself. And so I'll be present. And I told you I've come from camping. So this is how I camp, people. You know, but it's just that real desire that you need to be present. You don't want your kids to remember you as that mom who was always studying, or you never had time for them. You never could do anything. But then that means that there's going to be sacrifices. And so I just say to everyone, the discipline, the sacrifice, the consistency, stick it out, just keep going.
Amazing. I think right there. I feel like you just have to repeat that, because there's a lot of parents, to be quite honest, that have really stopped, their career development. They have stopped, anything. Because now it's all about their children. It's all about family time. And I love what you've just said. You have to create time for whatever you love. So talk to another mom, talk to another dad. Just face this camera and tell them they can do it. You've done it, and they can. This is a true testament that you can actually do whatever you set your mind to do.
Yeah. Look, that really touches me, because, Pete, I truly feel for moms, dads, and even older people who feel like their time is past. Like, I had an opportunity, or I should have done this and I didn't do it. Now time has passed. Can I just say to you, please, 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 your kids will grow up. They're going to leave you at one point. You don't want to look back with regrets. So I'd say to you, you may be a mom, you may be a dad, but you're still you. So I'm a mom, but I'm still Jacqui. And at the core of Jacqui, there's certain dreams Jacqui has. There's certain, passions. There's certain desires I have. And if I actually numb those, or I don't pursue those because I have children, I'm shortchanging myself, but I'm also shortchanging my children, because I'm not being the best version of myself. I think there's a lot of what we say, when you say, do what I say, but not what I do. If you're going to say to your kids, you need to aim high, or you need to do your best, or you need to do whatever it is, and you yourself, you're not showing what that looks like. Your life is mundane. It looks like going to work and coming back home and cooking and cleaning and, all of those things that we've got to do. Then you've got to wonder if what kind of modeling that is actually demonstrating to your children, but also for yourself. How have you shortchanged yourself? And so I'd say to you, it's not too late. Let 2024 be the year that you get back to the drawing board, take pen and paper, pick a few hours this week when you watch this, okay? A few hours. Just jot down those things that really, really you're passionate about. Those things you really wanted to pursue or do. Those things you dreamt about and you're not doing. And then start to map out how you can actually do them. I think the greatest thing you can do for yourself, the greatest thing you can do for your children, you can do for your family, is to really live your fullest life, your best life. And that looks like really pursuing your dreams, going after the things that you're passionate about. That's what I'd say to somebody, Pete.
Amazing.
And I hope they hear me, please.
Oh, they better hear you.
2024, tell us what you're doing.
Wow, that's a big secret that you actually, it's just wisdom. Let's call it wisdom. Thanks, Jacqui, so much for that wisdom. And there's something else I want us to touch on this career path and development and that. There are people who are actually stuck with one career. So I want you to talk to people who are stuck in one career. They don't want to take a risk to jump, because you've jumped from different, setbacks. And then after that, we're going to talk about mentorship, if there was any mentorship within your progression. But what are you going to tell those people who, they just want to stay in one career, or they came here and they said, this is it, and they get comfortable? What message do you have for them, Jacqui?
Yeah. Honestly, comfort is a really bad thing when there is more in you. If you know there is more in you, you are created for more. You've got so much more to give and you've become comfortable. I think that's a sort of death in itself. Okay, that right there is a death sentence. You cannot know that there is more, that you can offer more, you can do more, and you've stalled and you're sitting on those gifts and you're sitting on those abilities and you're not doing anything with them. You'd be amazed when you take that first step, how things flow. I think many times people are held back by the fear of income. What if I take a plunge and it doesn't work out? What will happen to me financially? I think there's nothing good that ever comes without you taking that leap of faith. And I think the moment you tell yourself that, and then you've got to believe that you will be fine. You take that step, you will be fine. And the beauty in Australia is you most certainly will be fine. There might be a bit of struggle here and there, but you will be fine. There'll be something. You can do a side job, pick up a shift here and there to make ends meet while you're pursuing that thing. But I think it's a death in itself. That's a death sentence. It's not the physical, but it's a death of sorts, because you've killed the dreams, you've killed what you're capable of, and you're just sitting with this one thing. I think you really need to really diversify and do what is important to you. And that takes me to the point, Pete. I feel many, many, many Kenyans, and this may go for other people as well, but many Kenyans Kenyans who are living in the diaspora, but particularly I'll speak to those in Australia, because this is where I am, have really just set their minds that there's only certain jobs they can do. We've got to break that mold of thinking that we were all created to do disability. I mean, there's no way known we're all made for disability, and nothing wrong with disability. Please hear my heart. There's got to be someone who's doing that work, and it's very noble work. But can we allow people who have a heart for that industry, who have a heart for those people who are disabled, to work in that space? Because there's people who God has put that in them. If you're doing it as a means to an end, and you could be doing something else with yourself, I think you've got to be true to yourself and really just chase after those things. And I'm really so thankful. In my own journey, I remember when I applied in retail, I applied to 3 places, and I'll mention them. Toys R Us, I applied to Kmart, and I applied to Maya. Now, I got rejections from the other 2, and I got an interview from Maya. But I remember I had a uni friend, Australian. When I told her I'd applied at Maya, and thank goodness I'd already applied, because her reaction right there, she's like, oh, you'll never get the job. Okay, so that was her reaction. You'll never get the job. Now, well, I did get the job. So what am I saying to someone? I'm saying to someone, let's break the mold. If you walk in the shops and you think, wow, I'd like to work in wherever, go and apply. If you like to do makeup or whatever, and there's a makeup studio or store, department stores have makeup section, go and apply. I don't know why we have just allowed ourselves to think that that is all we can do, that is all that we are made for. And I'm not sure if it's the advice we get when we first come, or it's part of that conditioning we talked about before, thinking that because of my skin color, because of the way I wear my hair, because of the way I look, because of all of those things. And we need to start challenging that. We need to actually break into the different places. There's so many opportunities out there. Let's go after them. And I'd say bless whoever is wired for disability, and, let them go for it full force. But I really just struggle with the fact that so many don't even give themselves an opportunity to pursue the things that they are passionate about. And there are so many opportunities out there. So really, Pete, you asked me about the question, those who are doing the one thing, you're just, in your singular focus. If that is what you are made for, that is where your passion is, stay there. So you're really wired to be a nurse. Fantastic. Go for it. Do it. But I really want to talk to those who are doing nursing, and you are not created as a nurse. You're not wired as a nurse. Every day you think about going to work, you're resentful about the idea that you're going to work. For those ones, I want to say to them, dream again. What is that thing you desire to do? Find out who's doing it. Start to have conversations, and we're going to talk about mentorship. Conversations with people who are where you want to be. Make time, create time, talk to them. Everyone's path is unique, but there's something about someone's life lessons that you can ride on to get yourself to where you need to be. And so I'd really say to people like those, please don't spend another year doing something that you're not passionate about, something you don't love, something that you're not wired for. Start to think about how you can branch off and take that leap of faith. It's a risky one, but trust me, it will work out. I can come back to me, money back guarantee. It will work out, guaranteed. And so, and I think then that then brings us to the aspect of mentorship. Mentorship is vitally, it's so important. I was really blessed when I started that journey with Maya into the graduate program. They paired every one of the graduates, there was 12 of us. They paired us with a mentor, and they couldn't have got me a better mentor. At the time, I did not see, like when I was, initially when I was presented his bio, I thought, what do we have in common? Nothing. He's a male, Australian, as tall can be. Is in IT. He was the director of IT. Like you talk about difference. I just didn't ever think he could see anything through my lens, or I could see anything through his lens. But I could not have had a better mentor. We would meet regularly. And maybe then let me just demystify, maybe say to people what you ought to be looking out for. In my case, I was paired with a mentor. But when you're looking out for a mentor, you need to look for the kind of mentor I had. His name is Mark. very encouraging. Like, we'd sit and he was almost like a sounding board, like the kind of person, instead of going to Google and asking the question, you go to a human face and you go like, what do you think about this? I'm actually thinking about doing this. What do you think? And they can be honest with you. They can be vulnerable about their own challenges and the obstacles they've come across. They can even, not necessarily financially, but they're investing in you. They're investing of their time. They're investing a self-belief. I really believe in you. I can see your potential. I can see where you can go. And so those regular conversations, and remember, it's the mentee, the one being mentored, who's got to drive that relationship more. You've got to drive the relationship because you're the one who'll need to initiate meetings. You're the one who's going to need to make time to, think about what it is you want to discuss. Don't go there and sit down and expect the mentor to feed you. You've got to actually go there and go, oh, this is where I'm at. What do you think about all of this? So I'd say to anyone who's never considered a mentoring relationship, please look out for a mentor, and you'd be very surprised how humbling and honoring it is for people when you actually go up to them and say, I'd really love to be mentored by you. You'd be surprised how many people will actually say yes to that mentoring relationship. So I'd really encourage people, get a mentor. If nothing else, a mentor keeps you accountable. A mentor really just keeps you on your toes. They're just like, yep, you said you'd do this. Where are you at with that? Another really good one that people don't often explore is coaching. Getting a coach. And we think about coaching in terms of sport, a sports coach. Now there are life coaches. You can get a life coach to do life with you. And you may not pay them to do every day because, that would get very expensive. But you can have stints. You go, in this season, I really need to break out and I want to open a business. I really want to set up a business. I need someone to walk alongside me. Get a life coach. They'll keep you accountable. They'll walk with you. You can discuss, aspects of where you're going, what your, obstacles, how you can navigate those. But it's important to cultivate these relationships.
Amazing. And for someone who's in a career or someone who wants to really progress in their career or sort of, achieve goals or set goals, how do you as Jacqui set your goals? Maybe career goals, family goals, any pointers, any tips to getting where you are now? How do you set very tangible goals for you?
Yeah, good question. The setting of goals, I've learned over time that you cannot just set goals in your mind. But in 2024, I want to do this. Again, biblical. It says to make the vision plain. You make the vision clear and then you run after it. So making the vision clear means you need to sit down, pen and paper, and go, I want to achieve this financially, this for my family, this for my career. You jot it down. You've got to put it down. Don't just mentally think it and, it's just abstract in your mind. You've actually got to put it down and then place it somewhere you can hold yourself accountable and remind yourself where you're going. If all you do is think, oh, by 2023, I'll finish a course and that's all you've thought, it's highly likely, if not probable, if not guaranteed, it will not happen. Whereas if you put it down and you put it somewhere you walk past and you remind yourself, this is where I'm going. So I'd say to anyone, take time. It's got to be, you set aside time, like a significant block of time. Either take a day, a couple of hours, you sit down, pen and paper, and you start to write things. There are so many really good resources out there. You look up, how to set goals and you sit down and the tutorials and things. Like I'm talking about being serious about stuff. Let's not do Kenyaji things. Like let's do things properly. These Kenyaji things don't work. Do the hard yards. And that looks like really setting aside a block of time and mapping it out. My goal is like now I've got my goals this year about, around my study. And I really know where I want to go with that. And I've got goals even around my family. And I'm like, I know where I want to go with that. And my finance, I know where I want to go with that. But that has taken sitting down with pen and paper and going, this is where I'm going this year. And, if along the way I don't achieve all, that's fine. At least I'm ahead of where I was in 2023. Or, so it's not about ticking them all off, but it's about having a clear path. You've set yourself a clear path. And you have a game plan about how you're going to go and then make a start and then see where that takes you.
Amazing. And at this time, I want us, maybe, we're going towards a close, but I want you to talk to young people, because we've seen a lot of young people, come in, choose a career, and then at the middle change or switch or, yes. So just what message would you have for young people, at the beginning? And also, then the second part is for those who come and say, this is not what I wanted to do. There's something else I want to change to. But now talk about the whole career choice and as a young person, how should that look like?
So again, for a young person, like we said, think about your wiring and be true to yourself. I think it's, in some ways I get it. It's a means to an end, the desire to better your life and, to live in Australia and to settle in Australia. And by virtue of that, there's going to be certain things that you need to do, as a means to an end. But I think the sad reality for a vast majority, far too many of us, is that means to an end becomes your life. It shouldn't be. So once you've attained that end, then you need to go about pursuing your goals and your dreams. And so for those who are coming in, and I know there's many who come and you'll do a course, not because you're passionate about it, but you need to do it. And I understand that and I get that. But I want to talk to you at the end of that, you've got what you need out of that course. Can I say to you that you now need to actually pursue those things that you are made for? I think the world is less better off with so many of us actually doing things that we were never made to be doing. And so I'd say to you, once that means to an end is over, then go after the thing you're after. And I can actually maybe almost distinguish youth or young people into two. I want to talk to the young people, and those who are the ones I've just spoken to. You've come here as an international student. So for those ones, there's times you're going to have to do certain things, sacrifices to get yourself to where you need to. And that's a short term. But keep that perspective. It's got to be short term. If 10 years down the track, once you've got where you need to, you're still doing these same things and there's a problem. That's that group. Now, I want to talk about the young people, and there's a growing number, big number, who are born here. So Kenyan, but born, or maybe not necessarily born, but have grown up here. They have their parents in Australia. I think that's a very different cohort because they have the benefit of deciding what they want to do. Like the world is their oyster. You want to do whatever. You want to be a basketball player, go after it, All of those opportunities are available to them. They don't have some of the hindrances or obstacles. And I'd say to those ones that it really then is important that they pursue what's important to them. And maybe in there, I'm also talking to Kenyan parents who are raising kids here. I think we need to break free of some of those limitations that we grew up with. Limitations around what success looks like. Success looks like being a doctor, looks like being a lawyer, looks like being all of those things. I think let's allow our kids to dream and to be anything they desire to be. If that's a rapper, bless your child. Let them go be the best rapper that Victoria has seen, or Australia has seen, or the world has seen for that. I think let's release our children and remove that pressure that children feel that they've got to perform for their parents. They've got to be something for their parents. And so for those ones, and I'm really pleased as I've engaged with different young people in the community, particularly I'm talking about those who've either been raised here or born here. I'm finding that those seem to be pursuing things that they're passionate about, that they feel, and not all of them. I know some of them are pursuing things because their parents want them to pursue those things. But I'd say to them that it really is important that you go to the heart of who you are as a person and pursue what really works for you. I've seen young people who are doing film and TV and doing amazing things, doing amazing photography. So let's bless our children to really pursue the way God has wired them so uniquely and to pursue the things that God has for them.
Amazing. Tell the ones doing film to come and join me here.
Come and work with the Connect. Come and work with the Connect.
Just as we are about to wind up, I just want to ask this question. After all that you've achieved, after all you've done, was that the journey you actually envisioned at the start? And how is Jacqui feeling now at this moment?
Yeah. You know what, Pete?
Just looking back.
Yes, none of it. I could never have scripted my life how it's turned out. I could never. Like if I'd started to write a novel and I had thought this, I would never have talked about how it's kind of worked out. I think where I did not start this story is to say that I wasn't an outstanding student by any stretch. And I talked about that leap from Loreto Valley Road to Loreto Limuru. And I mean, it really was worlds apart. Okay. And so I think the perception that people might get as they listen to me is that somehow, academically, I'm somehow more gifted. I'm not natural, all of these things. Far from it. No, far from it. It has actually not been a walk in the park type of journey. But I also would not change anything about the journey. Nothing at all. I would not change any part of it. And so would I have dreamt about my life being where it is now? Absolutely not. If you would have told me that I'd be working at a university, lecturing and all of these things, I would perhaps have laughed. I was a very timid, very shy girl growing up. And, and really I would never have thought an academic pathway was something that I was wired for. But, it's amazing how your life kind of works out. And, Peter, I truly, truly from the heart of me, and I just hope people can actually really realize this, is that there is a path ordained for each person. Every one of us. Some will walk in the path that was ordained for them, and there's some who will not walk in that path. And this path that's ordained for you comes through what we've talked about. You take that one step and then the journey unfolds. Then you take the next step. But if you never take a step, you never get to enjoy or to see what it would be. So had you told Jacqui at 7, 10, 13, 15, 21, look at me today, I mean, I would never have believed you. Actually, something I missed out. Before I got to Maya, I did a cleaning job. I worked as a cleaner. And I worked at a cleaner at the same institution where I was doing my year 12. So that's the same place. And I remember, and because we do very early hours, it was safe. No one got to see me until one day, one of my teachers came in and I was cleaning the staff room and she was so emotional. She cried. She's just like, is this what you do? Like she could not believe it, and made me feel sorry for myself. I was actually like, oh my gosh, such a hard life. Oh, this is sad. But you know what? I look at it and I think, I would not change any of that. So I worked there. So I'd do the cleaning of the school and then on the weekends I'd clean houses. You just, the path, as a cleaner, as I was cleaning, would I ever have thought that one day I'll be standing in a university lecture theater? Never. Like it's the stuff of dreams, but that's what I mean. You just kind of have to trust that the journey is divinely orchestrated, that there is a God. Pete, I'm going to preach to somebody. Okay, there is a God. Like people believe me, there is a God, and God really does order your footsteps. It's about really just taking that one step, and then he never shows you the end. I reckon if he showed me the end, it probably would have scared me. But he just shows you that's like, okay, you take this step, Jacqui, now enroll in this, or do this. And as you do that, you start to see paths opening. So no, would I have dreamt of the life I now have? No. But is this the end? No. I certainly do think that I'm only scraping the surface. I think there is a lot more to come. I have great dreams for myself. I think one of the things, Peter, I was pondering as I was, thinking about this interview is also about some of the things you also have to sacrifice because you're a parent. We talked about parenting. There's certain sacrifices. If I was to be asked now, do I love what I do? Absolutely. Would I change what I do? Maybe not in this season, but do I have aspirations for the future? I certainly do. And those aspirations look like working in an international organization. So whether that's the UN or working in the International Criminal Court, those are the kinds of places I aspire to. Is it realistic now with where my kids are at? No. And so I'm enjoying the journey where I am. But do I envision the future? 100% I envision what that future looks like. And I look forward to it. So I'm saying I'm not speaking to people because I've arrived. Far from it. I'm speaking to people because I'm also on my own journey. And I'm just saying to you and inviting you to come along the journey, your own journey, but let's walk together and develop ourselves. I look forward to the day Kenyans can be recognized as a powerhouse in this country. That if you have met a Kenyan, like, my goodness, like, let that be our reputation. Let it be said that Australia is better. By the way, we're doing this interview after Australia Day, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Australia is better because these Kenyans came here, and I live that every day. I go into uni, the person who says to me, oh, wow, Australia is better because you're here. I mean, they may not use those words, but they may say it in different ways. When my manager comes up to me and says, oh my gosh, Jacqui, actually my manager has said to me that, this is, Jacqui, you need to stay here until at least your kids are in uni. Like, you stay put until your kids are in uni. And, that's a real compliment. It's like, we're not ready to let you go yet. And so what's that saying? I'm saying to somebody somewhere, let Australia be richer because we came here. And so that would be what I'd encourage somebody today.
Amazing. 2 final questions.
Yeah.
What motivates Jacqui? With all this going on, what's your biggest motivation to actually get all this done and achieve and go to the international low card and all? What really motivates Jacqui?
Yeah, good question, Pete. Oh my gosh. My biggest motivator, honestly, is God. I really just feel at the core of me, core, that part here. I feel at the core of me that there is purpose in why I was created. Like, I really do believe it. I believe that there is purpose. In that purpose, I need to live out. Like, I may not fully understand it, but I know that there was no accident. There was no mistake in my wiring, how I am, how I look, how I speak, how I, just everything about me. And so my number one motivator is God. I'm just like, I was made to do exploits. Like, I truly believe those verses that talk about, I can do all things through Christ. I really, truly do believe it. And I have seen it. I have actually seen it in my own life. So my number one is, it's my way of glorifying the Lord. In my excellence, I bring glory to the Lord. That's the first one. My second motivator is my kids. I really am motivated. I'm raising boys, though. And in raising boys, I think I'm speaking to them about what it looks like to what women look like, or what a woman can look like. So they will celebrate a woman when she's in the house and cooking and cleaning and doing all of those things. But they'll also be able to celebrate a woman who's a corporate woman, or a woman who's out in the marketplace or wherever it is. So I'm also really cognizant that because I don't have a daughter, as I raise boys, their vision, their earliest memories, their conditioning about a woman is being shaped by me. And I'm really careful what I'm depicting to them about what being a woman is, or even the kind of women I hope one day they're going to date, and how they're going to be towards their future spouses. And so that's my second biggest motivator. So one, in relation to the women, women around them and women in general and their relationship with them, but also in terms of them themselves. If my mom can do it at her age, like, the other day when I graduated, they were sitting in the auditorium, had never been to a graduation ceremony, but oh my goodness, they were so proud, and, one had his suit on and he was just like sharp as anything, sharp as anything for graduation. And I could see the eyes light up. So now the conversations are when I get to uni. And that really inspires me because, it's not a pathway for everyone. And I'm not saying everyone has to go to uni, but I think particularly in this culture and in this society, uni is perhaps not as coveted. You're fine if you so long as you don't have to go to uni. So as I hear them thinking about it, there's a conditioning that's happening, whether subconsciously or consciously, that, I can aim far. And whether that looks like uni or doesn't look like uni, but there's a conditioning that's happening that, you can keep going, you can aim far, you can go far. And so that's my second biggest motivator. So those two, if it's for God and for those boys, then you know what, that keeps me on my toes, 100%.
Amazing. And as we come to the, winding up, your final remarks, and at this time you can talk about anything, touch on anything, and any message you'd like to leave with the audience tonight.
Yeah. So to the audience, wow, this has been a really good interview for me, just reflecting back on the journey. And I'd really encourage each one as you watch this to just reflect on your own journey. Just think back to where your journey started. And as I'm thinking in my mind that I'm talking to a Kenyan, but you may not be a Kenyan. But even for the Kenyans, just think about when you are, you had the news that you've got your visa and you're coming to Australia. What were those dreams you had? Or, when you boarded the plane or that's a vow we all make to God. When I arrive in Australia, I will. Now, can I say it's time to actually start really honoring those vows, that you don't, the opportunity has been given to you. And I know the success can be found in many number of places, but when I think about people who've got opportunities, we certainly have opportunities in this country. And so I'd say to you, challenge yourself. Really think about how you can step outside of your comfort zone. Comfort can be good, but I think in many instances, it holds us back from being everything that we should be. And so I'd say to you that, pack, put it in a suitcase, fold it, close it, shut it, put it away, comfort, and really start to get uncomfortable and take risks and step out of what feels natural to you. And you'll be amazed how far you can go. And I really do cheer everyone on. I truly do cheer you. I've not arrived, but as I go on my own journey, I run my own race. Can I encourage you? Please do the same. But really, it truly is an honor, an absolute honor to share my life journey with you all.
Amazing. We want to say thank you, Jacqui, for creating the time. We celebrate you. Keep shining. Keep going and going. We celebrate you, and we'll come to celebrate with you when you go to the international court.
Please come.
And all those places, and we just we'll come and celebrate with you, because we as a community, we see you. We as a Connect, we see you. I want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And also thank you to your family for allowing you to come, and for yourself just putting it down to come to the Connect, because we know, as you've said, your time is very much, prioritized to actually utilize every bit of your minute. And for that, we are very grateful for that. Thank you so much. And for that, we say thank you. For our viewers, thank you for watching. And we shall catch you on the next one. Thank you, Jacqui.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you so much.